That's cool. Just a little bit back in.
Shit. Oh, shit. You go, Jen?
All right. What we're going to do in this example is we're going to paint a piece of plastic to make it look like rusty steel. Now you're going to see in this photo I started with a light gray tone. Okay. There's all kinds of different ways you can do it. In our example, I just put on a gray tone using acrylic paints. Okay. That's our base coat. So, and I'm just adding a little bit of discoloration on the sides of the surface here where it was flame cut. This is more of a magenta color using, again, airbrush and acrylics. I'm going to do something similar, but I'm going to use a light gray, and I'll show you as we go. Because again, steel, depending on how it's manufactured and where it's stored, and the different, I'm drawing a blank, I'm talking too much, alloys in it, some of the rusting and its final appearance will look different. So I'm going to show you all kinds of ways to do it. Okay, let's move forward, Pete, please. Next, we're going to mix a bunch of colors here, and we're going to apply them using a sponge. In this example, I got Vallejo model color. In our example today, we're going to just use light color. It's what I got on hand. Works just as good, a very similar product. And we're going to take that sponge, and we're going to take all these different colors and apply them and get that random looking base coat of these muddled different gray and rust tones. Okay, Pete? Then what you can do is I'm going to mask off part of it with a piece of tape, and I'm going to airbrush this rust tone over it. And okay. And as we pull off the tape, we're going to have that nice area of rust. And this will represent where another piece of steel was laying over this, and the capillary action of the seam drew in the water and got all the rust between the two pieces. Okay, you guys have worked in metal yards or shipyards or are familiar with that effect. But you can also, at the same time, I'm going to mix a light. You can add more different grays to kind of muddle and some of these effects to get more of a random look. Pete, please. And then what I'll do is, again, we can add more different, put our tape back on, and we can add more scratches of different rust using a sponge. Next, please. And what am I doing here? Oh yeah, we're just adding a mat. What I did here, I'm not going to get that far into it, but what I did was I added some hairspray like I just showed you, and I drew this arrow, I painted it on, chipped it up real good, and then I just sealed it with a matte coat. So although I'm not going to get quite into that because we've already covered it, and I don't want to bore you all to death, you can use a hairspray for a lot of different things. I've even done effects like this here just using the hairspray technique like I showed you just a half hour ago. Okay, next. Was that the last one?
No.
Okay. We're going to take some, you can take, if you want, you can take some enamels. In this case, I'll probably be just using more rust tones, but you can take like gray enamels too and blend them over as another means to kind of combining the different rust colors from your applied with your acrylics and your base coat. And here it's just again adding rust washes just to kind of blend the rust tones. And I'm not sure how many more. And then we'll go wherever you flame cut piece of steel. I guess is maybe you enlarging the grain structure from the heat. You enlarge the grain structure of the metal, and it's more susceptible to rusting where you flame cut areas, and that's what I did. I just added a lighter tone of rust around the perimeters of it, and you can see you're getting all these different rust effects that are kind of working together. And again, we're blending more rust tones.
And I'm curious, is that the piece of plastic you're using, does that represent something in real life? Is it like a random cut? Is there all the different shapes on it?
I'll show you in a minute. Okay, it's on a paper panzer. Okay, here we're using I think they look like oil paints, and mixing them with the here just trying to show you can take like enamel colors. In this case, this is Humbrol, and these are rust-colored pigments, and you can mix them together like I showed you earlier with the earth tones. That's a cool thing about pigments, and you can mix them with acrylics too. Pete? Oh yeah, that's why we're doing speckling. We're adding more specks of rust to to the part. Now further, it's like a way of further blending and adding more rust tones and giving it more of a natural look. And you can see the speckling, these blended areas around the corners, these blended rust tones, it will make them look more natural with the make all the it kind of just blends everything together. Again, when you're applying speckling in a real fine manner like this, it's almost a type of filter, depending on how heavy you put it on. It's up to you if you want to call it a filter or not. I can kind of consider it one. Okay, next one. Again, make some more rust tones. What am I doing next? I forgot. Oh yeah, these are just the different mediums I use, the oil paints and stuff. Oh yeah, and the last, just adding some metallic pigments around it with your finger, around the edges, around the metal edges.
Oh, cool.
And here it is. It's on top of this Panther tank. It's a piece of anti-aircraft expanded steel. And now this is a cool thing about when you're doing. This is a cool thing when you're doing stuff like this. If you got an imagination and you can, if you're doing like a theoretical subjects like this, you can take and add so much more character to what's just a typical yellow Panther, Panther F tank. You can just add. It's just so much more fun to do stuff like this. And it's a lot you can do with it if you're creative. And that's why theoretical subjects like paper paints is so much fun, because those of you who enjoy painting, you can take it so much further. Okay, is that the last one, Pete? And it's just, oh yeah, quotes of dust tones. Well, anyway.
Enough
of that.
So,
hold on a second, I'll catch you up.
I'll just go right on through. There you go. Steel, because of the rust is always very, very matte, because it has a very fine, grainy structure, almost like matte surfaces. And when you have a matte surface, it's got a very fine texture that reflects the light in all different areas instead of right back at your eyes. That's why it looks matte. So whenever you got a matte surface, the dust is going to adhere to it very quickly too. And in this case, you always want it. Whenever you got rust, as someone once told me, you need to have dust too. Okay. All right. So now we're going to get going. Does anybody have any questions prior to me getting started? Okay. Let's get on. I'll grab the lights. Thanks a lot, Pete.
Sure.